So there were 2 comments this week, and I figured I would put together a video on this particular subject. The first person asked me how or what I would do with a descriptive essay, and the second person asked me how I would get an article to flow. And because these sit together so nicely, I'm going to do them both in one video. Firstly, what exactly is flow? What do we mean when we say this piece flows beautifully, or when I edit a piece and say that I've made some changes to aid flow? Lots of writers, lots of editors will have different ways to describe it. And here is what I mean when I talk about flow and how you can write your pieces, your articles, your essays with flow. And by using these concepts of flow, your descriptive essays will certainly go up a notch. Now, I can break the concept of flow down into 2 areas, orderly and graceful. Is this piece orderly? Does it follow a structure and arrangement? Secondly, does it have grace? Does it move gracefully from one area, one idea or concept to the next? Order will make your writing less chaotic and random. It will have structure to it. It will have rhythm, no monotony. The beauty of a piece, its flow, comes from how the writing is arranged and how it moves. That is order and grace. Let's look firstly at order, how your writing is arranged. There are 2 tools that you can use to greatly add order to your writing. The first of these is consistency. Nothing speaks professionalism more than a piece of writing that is consistent. This is often overlooked, and it can be disastrous if left unchanged and unchallenged. When I speak about consistency, I'm referring to the style that you employ, that you choose for a particular piece. Now, style is simply a set of rules that a media publication, for example, or a journal or whatever uses. It's a set of house rules that tells its writers, this is how we want you to write our stuff. Let me give you an example. Say you are quoting books or movie titles. You may choose to put the title in quotation marks, or italicize the title, or bold it, or even have all caps. Whichever you choose doesn't really matter. Whichever style you employ, be consistent. Make sure that every title is written in the same way. Be consistent with that. Do not deviate. Another example is Mr. or Mrs. Do you use a period or do you not? It's your choice. Some publications have their own style sheets. That's the house rules, a set of house rules that will require one style or another. Where there is no preference, the choice is yours, but remain consistent. Do not deviate. Is it US or US with periods? When your writing seems to have some sort of discipline to it, it inspires confidence in your reader. The second tool that you can use to add order, to add arrangement to your writing, is that of narrative order. To explain this and to illustrate for you how this works, how the rules of order works, I have written a short 4-paragraph piece. In this piece, I've inserted certain errors to look for, and I've arranged it in a certain way to aid flow. Now, I have not researched my essay. How to research an essay is another subject for another video for another day. So, I have chosen to write on volcanoes, and I have completely made up all the information in the essay. So whatever you do, don't use my essay as fact. Let's just have fun with it. Firstly, I have either decided that I'm going to answer certain questions about volcanoes, or these questions have been given to me as part of an essay or research assignment. Okay, so the ones I have are: what is a volcano? Name a famous volcano. How does a volcano work? And what can be done to save the world from volcanoes? Now, look at the topics that we have. While these may be the order they were presented to you in, they might not be the order that is best to use when writing the essay, okay? For example, I prefer to arrange them like this because it makes more logical sense. It doesn't matter as much as you would think but as long as you follow some logic, you will be better off than if you didn't. Only an amateur allows his topics to fall where they may in any random order. Now, I'm going to read my essay. You will notice that I have highlighted some areas, and those I will explain. Some are things to consider, some are errors. The colored and bolded text is just there for me to highlight certain things so I can come back to them, and in no way should you use colored text in an essay. Okay, so here's mine. A volcano is, in its simplest form, a mountain with a hole at the top, from which molten magma is ejected. The word volcano comes from the Indo-Spanishanese words Volc, meaning fiery death, and ano, meaning mountain. A volcano is literally a fiery mountain of death. Not only does a volcano spew out molten magma, which is in fact very hot and melted rock, but also poisonous gases. The center of the Earth is a fast spinning ball. It is also very hot and contains melted rock. Because it spins so fast, it throws melted rock all over the place, similar to a merry-go-round throwing kids all over the place. The holes in the top of mountains are, therefore, a convenient way for these melted rock projectiles to be flung from. These filling mountains can cause much harm, as is evidenced by the destruction of Paradise Valley towards the end of the 10th century. Paradise Valley was a large city-state populated entirely by sentient hedgehogs, and much of what we now know is thanks to archaeologists who uncovered the ancient site and have decoded much of its mysteries. According to ancient writings, this hedgehog culture would, every year, sacrifice a tenth of its crop to he who would burn us, the local name for the volcano which eventually destroyed their city. Being radish traders on the major vegetable routes, a tenth was likely a large amount to give up, and one must wonder at its efficacy. After all, Paradise Valley was ultimately destroyed, despite a large amount of turnips being thrown into the volcano. It would seem, then, that the turnip method may not hold clues as to how we can combat the scourge of fiery death mountains in modern times. Okay, let's analyze it. Firstly, let's look at consistency. In the final paragraph, the phrases "he who would burn us" and "turnip method" are both italicized. Consistency. It's no good having one in italics and the other in inverted commas. Secondly, look at the word tenth, T-E-N-T-H, and tenth as in the number 10, T-H. Why are they different? Choose one style and stick with it. It doesn't matter which one it is as long as you stick with the style you have chosen. Now, note the words in the second paragraph, but also poisonous gases. Now, this might not be a consistency issue, but is no less important. See how the words just stand there and sort of do nothing. It goes from hot melted rock to center of the earth is a spinning ball, with a standalone issue just thrown into the middle. This is called a stray thought, and you should be wary of it. Something that's just standing there on its own with no other information to support it. The fact that it's even there. Yes, I'm sure that poisonous gases are a problem, but why? How? Where are they formed? Either remove this reference completely or expand on it. On its own, it is merely a stray thought and has no real place being here. All you've succeeded in doing is interrupting the flow. Now, this next bit is massively important when it comes to flow, and it's the single biggest tool that I can give you. Watch what happens when I start to name the beginnings and endings of my paragraphs. See, it is not A to B, C to D, and so on and so forth. It is A to B, B to C, C to D, and on and on. And that is because, and pay attention, the end of your first paragraph must tie in with the beginning of your second. The end of your second paragraph must tie in with the beginning of your third, and so on. In this example, it has, see here, at the end of the first paragraph, a volcano is literally a fiery mountain of death. Beginning of the second, not only does a volcano spew out molten magma, now we've linked fiery mountain of death, molten magma. And we've continued. At the end of the second, a convenient way for these melted rock projectiles to be flung from. Beginning of the third, these fling mountains, a nice little pun and play on words, can cause much harm. So we've gone from this is what they do to this is what could happen. We have flowed from one to the next. At the end of the third, who uncovered the ancient site and have decoded much of its mysteries. And we start the fourth by saying, according to ancient writings, so we have decoded much of its mysteries, ancient writings. The two go hand in hand, one to the next. There is no break between the paragraphs, and they follow a consistent logical order. Where one ends, the other begins. And finally, look at the blue text that is in the first paragraph and in the last paragraph. I have given the volcano a name in the first. I've called it a fiery mountain of death. And I've reiterated that name in the last. And what this does is it creates a handy little block, a block in which this essay sits. And I have opened with a concept and closed with the same concept so that in the reader's mind, the whole thing wraps up together and becomes one cohesive whole. Sure, it might be subconscious, but it's important. It has the feeling of opening and closing. And it takes all the important information and it lumps it together between those beginning and end bits. And doing so can often, if you don't do so, make an essay feel like it's just hanging around and waiting for something to happen, for something to come along and close it all up. Granted, I have not completed or adequately completed this essay. So there is something else that I've gotten wrong here. And can you spot what I did wrong? Can you see what I did wrong? Well, I failed to answer the final question. The final point was, what can be done to save the world from volcanoes? I only mentioned that the turnip method appears not to have worked out, but I failed to offer any other scenarios or ideas. Fatal flaw, fatal flaw. If I were marking this essay, I would take points off for that. So arrange the paragraphs in a logical fashion. Make sure one flows to the next. Be consistent with the style you have chosen. Make sure you answer everything that is required and leave out any stray thoughts. All this will contribute to how your essay flows. It will be orderly, it will be graceful, and a reader will find it pleasing to the eye. So thanks again for watching, and if you found this useful, then like the video, leave me a comment if there's anything specific that you would like to know about or anything you'd like me to expand on or do a video on. And before you leave, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of my tips, tricks, and tutorials. And until next time, cheers.